Tenet. As you guys know, the Tenet has not been released yet. Only China group buy has concluded. So lucky for us, we have a Tenet here, that's mine, and we have Ivan, another proud owner of the Tenet. And this is Book, the Tenet hater. So, you may be asking, why are we creating a video of the Tenet? Well, the Tenet is a very special board in my eyes. So, it is both a southpaw and a regular layout. So, it's a 70% in which there's a 60% cluster and there is a 10% cluster over here. If you guys may have already noticed, the Tenet is, it's a mirrored design, which means the weight can be flipped. And so, this board can be used in both the southpaw mode and the normal mode. Also, it has a really nice OLED screen, which we will be showing you later on. You guys may have already noticed as well that the weight is unlike anything you have ever seen. The Tenet weight originally is a sandblasted weight. However, we went ahead and we went to mirror polish the weights on both my Tenet and Ivan's Tenet.
It's just a brass weight, there's nothing special about it.
Yeah, but the thing touched back to like how it can be rotated. I thought it was really cool. I like southpaw, but at the same time, I don't really want to commit to the whole southpaw aesthetic because I still prefer my arrow keys on the right. So I bought this instead. For this particular Tenet, Ivan's Tenet, it's already been tape molded. There are gaskets on both the top and the bottom case. So the plate sits on the gaskets. Between the plate and the PCB, there is like a little silicone plate. So this thing sits between the plate and the PCB, which is here. Essentially, it helps to mute a little bit of the vibrations that come from the board. The screen is also rotatable. This is the screen. Of course, you can use it southpaw, which is what I'm showing you now, or the regular one like this. So the screen displays a bunch of information. Obviously, it's customizable. There's either the words per minute thing or the matrix thing, which we'll touch into that later on. Okay, so the internal components, they come with two different, I wouldn't say these are ribbon cables. This is GST connectors to some wires. Like there are the shorter ones and the longer ones that they provide. The shorter ones are used for the southpaw layout and the longer ones are used for the normal layout. There are also the plate and the PCB. So the steps I have already been mounted. Should we put in like some switches?
Why are you asking me? You guys are not building the board. Look at this. Oh, you mess with that. 1 little, 2 little, 3 little gaskets. 4 little, 5 little, 6 little gaskets. 7 little, 8 little, 9 little gaskets. There's still way too many gaskets. Not that it's a bad thing. I just feel that a board can sound good without adding on so many things.
So under the tape, you can see that on the PCB there are markings. So this arrow has to correspond with the screen, else you know the ribbon cable is not plugged in right. The layout also matters. Like if he wants to install it with the southpaw layout, the arrow has to be pointed down instead of up. You have to keep watch of that. So here comes the finicky part, installing this ribbon cable through this little slot. So now that the ribbon cable has poked through, we will now proceed to attach it to the little thing. If you guys already realized, I'm putting the ribbon cable facing this way. If you put it in the wrong way, it does go in as well, but you really wouldn't know. So unless you built this board before or you watch some instructional video, it's not really intuitive. So there are some things that should be fixed, but I don't know if they're going to fix it in a global group buy thing.
See, I don't even have to do all the criticism myself. It's too overcomplicated and over-engineered.
Yep, so now that I have all the cables attached, I will close the thing up now. Carefully. Oh, Jesus. I think I built it southpaw. I built it southpaw. And this is flipped.
Do you want
No. We have to rotate the weight.
See what I mean? See what I mean? See what I mean? Actually, no. I will commend them and say you can do it that way because it's ergonomically better for you to angle your wrists down, so you can be like typing like this.
Why would you? Well, apart from the fact that there's a really nice screen, which I truly love. If the board sounded better or, I spent more time modding it, I wouldn't mind using this as a daily driver. I think the screen is pretty beneficial, apart from the part where you have to install like some software.
Weird software, yes.
Yeah, if the screen could work on its own without software, it does, but some features are just not present. I do not like that invasion of privacy. So we have done both. The board has already been built and Ivan's board. Let me show you the features of the OLED first, since we haven't already done that. Yeah, so the software you have to install is hex core, but the functions that I'm showing you now works without hex core. So the first one would be the keys per minute. So when you type, there's a graph. Yeah, ooh, cool. Yeah, and all these blank screens can be, programmed to however you want. And this is the one that I'm talking about, right? So it has the caps lock indicator. I'm not sure if you can see it. And then there is like keys per minute, small little thing. The day and date does not work because you need the software for that. There's a matrix on the board, so like when you press the switches, it shows.
I mean, cool, but then again, unnecessary.
These two little things here are indicators, so they light up. So for example, this one I have to set it to the num lock function, and for this one it's the caps lock, so you can see it does light up when I, press it. Ivan, what thought? Yeah, what you think? I think pretty talky.
Yep.
So, final thoughts on the board. I think after building it like twice or thrice, the board is pretty easy to build. There are a lot of connective parts, like the ribbon cables, lots of stuff that can go wrong. Not only that, the little JST connector cable that they provided is kind of short. If you notice just now when I was putting the board together, because the daughter board is on the bottom, and because this whole row is attached to the top, you can't really detach it. So you can't have everything existing on the bottom and put everything together. You have to have plate and PCB, everything on the top, and then you have to connect it to the bottom, and then you have to screw it together. So if you're not used to doing that and there's too much tension on the JST connector, you might break it. The ribbon cable going through the little slit that I showed you just now, that was a bit finicky to do. But once you get it through and once you get the weight orientation right, pretty okay board to build. But in terms of the sound, I would say that's one of the biggest flaws of the board. I do not like the sound, like how this board sounds. Maybe with Epsilons and without the silicone mute plate or the PCB plate, it sounds slightly better. But if you were to have the silicone plate in it, it doesn't sound very good.
This is a very clacky board by nature. So the closest that I actually gotten to talk with the Tenet 70 is actually the ice candies. Yeah, but looking forward to trying them with the white switches.
The ultra high molecular weight polyethylene white. Not we. Francis.
Do I want to roast it? I mean, I'll say a few good things about it first. I like that it has an equal 0.5 unit bezel all the way around. Yeah, that's all about it. One is that issue where it sounds like ass. The two is that if you have to mod a keyboard to that extent, right? You saw the amount of tape mods that they did and all that. So if you have to mod a keyboard to that extent, right, then what's the point? To me, I feel like the board has to sound good without any of those. Fair enough if it's on a cheap board that costs like $150, $200, but on a board that costs this much, right? It shouldn't have to have this issue. It shouldn't have to go through all that modifications, all this experimentation, just to get it sounding at least decent. The functions, features, yeah, very nice. But the over-engineering part of it is that adding more components can always fail, and that's always the fear. It's like, oh no, if this fails, how am I going to get it replaced? What the fuck do I do with this? OLED screen itself, yeah, some boards you can easily desolder and replace it. Some of them are more proprietary, like this uses its own software. Where are you going to get that? I don't know.
But again, I think the main point of this board is probably the southpaw and the normal layout switching.
Yeah, functionality wise is very nice.
And the OLED. Like, people would buy this board for the OLED. Sound, of course, sound very important, but in terms of why we bought this board, is for the technicality, the specs, the engineering that went into it, not for the sound.
If it's going to cost that much, right, I feel like they could do better. Could do a little bit better.
I agree on that. Okay, so Lawrence from the future here. We have spent 4 days and 3 nights figuring out how to get the Tenet to sound good.
They travel all the way to fucking Penang just to get the rarest of unobtainium. Finally made it sound good.
Jokes aside, we have just PE foamed it, so I have added PE foam for both the plate and the PCB, and we have added PE foam for the case. So essentially this now sounds like a foamy board, but it does add a lot of torque to it. So it's not as muted as before. With the silicone mute plate on, it sounds very dry, flat, boring.
Like I said, we like past history me says that yes, a board should sound nice on its own. You don't need like too many mods. But I do feel like PE foam, at least, it's a nice discovery or innovation, so that a lot of things now sound good because you can just add something that's cheap, easily available, not too destructive. At least get the non-conductive version of the PE foam. I mean, I've literally seen people use like the fucking, what's it, the Moss Burger wrappers, cleaned it out and then they use that, because that's actually PE foam as well, the non-conductive ones. So they cut it up and they put it in their keyboards and then they, oh wow, magically it just sounds better.
You could buy PE foam from Amazon, you could buy PE foam from us, we sell in smaller quantities. Just don't use Mossberger wrappers. Like, for God's sake, PE foam is dirt cheap. Everything now comes wrapped in either PE foam or something similar, so just use that. I think that's way cleaner than, you know, like a rice burger wrap or whatever the heck you get from
your remnant teriyaki sauce just and then it's like...
Yeah. But what if the teriyaki sauce makes your keyboard sound better?
Oh, hey, actually, we did have something we did try. We didn't use teriyaki sauce for that board.
Well, future video. Coming up is a little, you know, type test of the newly modded Tenet. I think it sounds better. Sound is the preference, right? So at the end of the day, either if you decide your board to be clacky, clicky, thocky, or whatever in between, you know, that's on you. But for me, I like the deep sounding boards, so... Are you satisfied with Mecha services?
Very. Now subscribe to Mecha, please. Subscribe. Please like and subscribe to Mecha, please.
Good boy, good boy.